I now recognize the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Davidson, for 5 minutes of questions.
I thank the chairman, thank our witnesses, really appreciate your written testimony, your oral testimony, and the answers we've gotten to so far. Look, it's important to remember that a lot of what we're talking about here is a result of policy decisions. I think one of the, we talk past one another when we put labels on things or whatever. We try to ascribe motives to things instead of observing facts. And I think one of the quotes that I share is from an Austrian economist, Ludwig von Mises. He said, the most important thing to remember is that inflation is not an act of God, that inflation is not a catastrophe of the elements or a disease that comes like the plague. Inflation is a policy. A lot of what we're talking about deals with what happened to our money. I know that people can't see this. I don't know if the camera can make it shown, but you can see the lines diverge very sharply. If you look over at the monitor there, these lines diverge very sharply. And when did they diverge? In 1971. And what happened in 1971? We changed our money. So money is a big part of how inequality has happened. Inflation originally referred to the inflation of the monetary base, the monetary supply. And over that time, what has happened? We've seen asset price inflation, which greatly benefited those of us with more disposable income to put those assets to work in things like real estate or marketable securities. And then we've seen that grow as commodity prices go up, we've seen that grow into consumer price inflation. And then we look in the wrong places, like maybe the tax code, to say it's really a curative to say what's the cause. You're trying to treat the cause by dealing with the effect with tax codes. So I hope we can at least talk about the importance, not just of fiscal policy decisions, not just of regulatory policy decisions, but of the importance of sound money. And that is really at the heart of what we see. Another important thing that happened in 1972 is Richard Nixon recognized China. And in 1995, China became part of the World Trade Organization, and Mr. Goncalves, the World Trade Organization drives a lot of global trade, correct?
Yes.
Does anyone consider China to be a market economy?
I consider China an enemy, and in our trade associations, we do, particularly the American Iron and Steel Institute, which I'm vice chairman, we do not recognize.
It is not free trade. It's trade, but it's not free trade.
No.
So we had the promise of free trade. We had the promise of sound money. We don't have sound money, and we don't have free trade. Now, I'm for free trade. We don't have that. We have China. No one trades freely with China.
No.
They're not a market economy.
They are not.
Do they shape their market access?
Absolutely.
Do they dump into the global market, particularly in steel?
Yes.
Do they steal intellectual property with a whole government approach to theft?
They never did with my company, but I hear a lot about it, and I believe they do.
They might have not stolen yours, but the electrical steel, uniform grain electrical steel that AK Steel produces, they've got an awful interesting product competing with it, and then they steal the property, they create a Chinese company, and then they dump it into our markets. Yeah, it's distorting it, and it's stealing our jobs.
Just a correction. The ones that stole that patent were the South Koreans.
South Koreans.
The French sometimes are worse than the enemies.
So trade is important to recognize, and I wish we could spend longer on it. But if you look at sound money and trade, and automation is going to happen. I talked about Ohio. Look, we still have agriculture. We are a powerful ag state. We're a powerful industrial state. We're a powerful aviation state. We're a powerful aerospace state. We haven't kept up with some of the things, and when you talk about nuclear energy, in Coshocton, Ohio, we have a Bitcoin mining operation going in. And we're going to put old industrial capacity to use with nuclear power available right here in Ohio. And I thank you for the chance to address these issues, and I yield my time.